Good evening and welcome, and thank you for joining me this Sunday evening and this really chill uh, Monday evening leading into the bank holiday into the UK. I want to thank you for joining me, those on YouTube, those on Facebook, Instagram, Vita, I can see you, and those also on TikTok as well on the overflow. But for TikTok, especially if you coming over onto the show, which is Sylbourne TV there. Well, tonight, ladies and gentlemen, it's my Sunday evening is like a sort of chill, relax, sitting down, talking on some key issues as well. And what we're talking about is in Jamaica regarding the DPP Integrity Commission and constitutional reform as well. We try to pack them in between now and 45 minutes. My guest tonight will be Matondo, a barrister in the UK, and also he was a former acting public defender in Jamaica, and that's Matondo. We're going to have this very upfront discussion. But last night, I just want to say, last night we had a very good show last night. Last night I had Mr. Roger Allen, second VP Realtors Association of Jamaica, and also of Roger Allen, Jamaica Reality Limited. Reality Limited, where he's a managing director and qualifying dealer, and also Raymond Treasure, principal of York Castle High School, and the topic last night we were looking at was a property. We're looking at the topic there, real estate developments in Jamaica. You can go and watch that show on the YouTube channel. It's really 2 hours, but really the first hour as well. And you can have some really discussion on that. What I'm trying to do as much as possible is to try to make the discussions and the programs very informative, educational, and also not just entertaining, but really having these really frank discussions. So without further ado, I'm going to bring in Matondo Mukulu right here now. Sir Matondo, how are you doing, sir?
I think I'm good, and you?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. Fantastic. You know what I mean? Just came off the. I keep saying to myself, I just came back from Jamaica, but I can't keep saying that now because it's over a week now, or 2 weeks now. I want to say that I was just in Jamaica. I just want to keep saying I was just in Jamaica, but I wonder how long that's gonna last for.
You can go back next. You can go back next week and
Well,
come back.
I can go back next week as well. I saw you working out in the park earlier. That's really good. You know what I mean? Some exercising. Yeah,
Well, it's that time in
is
your
that time?
life.
Yeah. I think what we may need to do is at some point we may need to go into the park and we do some workout, some exercise, and then have these sort of discussions, as
We,
well. Yeah.
we should. I'll take you up on that offer.
Yes, definitely. But listen, the topic tonight, as we talked about, is DPP Integrity Commission and constitution reform. We have been on the forefront in the UK here from the diaspora perspective, talking about these sort of issues. You know, it's on the front line in Jamaica at the same time. But I tell you the funny thing though, while being in Jamaica, and maybe because I was in Otrus, you didn't really hear much about anything. I guess because you're more enjoying the sun and beach. But then when you come back to the UK, the whole thing is forefront of you. I think the first thing I wanted to look at was the director of public prosecution, Paula Llewellyn, of recent days, where she was the constitutional court deemed it that she, well, what they say, deemed it that she wasn't or position was sort of nullified based on the fact that it wasn't as illegal or so, that she was extended the extension of her time there.
hmm
Mm,
Well, I mean, the court took the decision that the second extension that she received,
mm,
having had one extension which is permissible by the Constitution, the second extension was null, void, and of no effect. So,
yeah.
in practical terms, the court treated it as if it did not occur.
Yes,
For
yes.
your listeners must remember, should recall that in July of last year,
Mm.
the government effectively rammed through Parliament in in less than a week the an amendment to the Constitution, which would allow the Director of Public Prosecution, Ms. Llewellyn, a second extension to her tenure.
Mm.
Bearing in mind that she has had at that time, she would have been allowed, was granted one extension, an extension of three
Yeah.
years, and she wanted another extension, and the court said no, you can't get that because the procedure by which they went about doing it was wrong, and the Constitution
Yeah.
only allows for one extension. See, what they
Mm.
cleverly did was to pass a. There were two issues before the court. The first was whether or not they could increase the age of retirement for the Attorney Generals and not for the Auditor General, sorry,
Yes.
and the Director of Public Prosecution. The court says, yes, you can do that. You can alter the age of retirement. Nothing is wrong with that. But
Mm.
you cannot alter, you cannot grant to the incumbent DPP a second extension
Yes.
because the Constitution only allows for one. And also, remember, they just turned up to Parliament and brought this bill to Parliament. Our constitution requires that if there's to be an appointment of a DPP or an extension of the DPP, that ought to be the result of a consultation between the the government of the day,
And the
right, and,
opposition.
and the opposition. None of that took place. None of that took place. So the procedure was deemed unconstitutional. Well, null and void and of no effect, meaning it never happened.
So what does this mean now in effect? Because I understand that there's an acting DPP. Does that mean to say now that the DPP is without a job and she's not the DPP anymore, or it's a stay because the government is seeking to appeal the court ruling?
Well, firstly, let's deal with the issue of a stay.
Mm.
There's no stay to it's a declaratory order
Yeah.
because what the Supreme Court did was to declare that the law is what it is.
Yeah.
Yes, you can't have a stay on that.
Mm.
But what the Constitution does allow is for a DPP who cannot, at a present moment, perform his or her job because of inability to perform the job, that person can step aside. But the instances in which the inability to perform that job have been construed, it's usually because of a particular conduct
Mm.
or if the person is unwell.
Mm.
What the Constitution does not allow is for effectively for a court to have declared that the extension that you sought and thought you had received, that extension has been declared of no effect.
Mm.
So I'm puzzled as to why it is that effectively the Attorney General and the DPP have said effectively that, oh well, I can step aside, but I don't have to resign
Mm.
from the post. And that has placed us in a conundrum. What I don't know is whether or not she's receiving a salary during this period. But there is no stay on the decision of the Supreme Court because you can't have a stay on a declaratory order. She says in her statement that was released that she's not presently able to perform her role and therefore she's there's an inability, she says. But the reason for that inability needs to be interrogated, and the principal reason for her inability to perform her role is clearly because a court has ruled that
That's rule.
the extension that she received or thought she got was of no effect. So, as
Mm,
far as I'm concerned, there is certainly they're standing on weak ground, both herself
mm,
and the Attorney General, and I'm joining them together because I know that Michael Hilton, Casey, the
yeah,
person, the lawyer who represented Philip Paulwell, who had brought the action. I know
yeah,
that he says, well, this is not about Miss Llewellyn, and I believe him when he says that, and it's true. Essentially, it's not just about her because there's uh, an important principle, constitutional principle, at
mm,
stake. But I think it is equally about her because, and I
yes,
say this because she was the one who has requested these extensions. Is not She has requested these extensions,
yes,
and quite tellingly, after the court's decision, days after the court's decision, she did not do the right thing, which was and the natural thing, which was
mm,
to have made a public statement to say that she is no longer the director of public prosecution, and that she enjoyed the time that she spent serving the country, and
yes.
she certainly wished her successor well. She didn't do that. What she did is to release a statement telling us that she cannot presently, she'll step
Because
aside. She cannot perform the role because of inability. No, you can't perform the role because a court has deemed the extension to be null and of no effect.
I think for one of the words which was said was that there was ambiguity as to what the court said. I think that is a sort of thinking that she sort of implied that there was no clarity. Um, and on the face of it, they say from a layman perspective, it doesn't appear that the government has a strong case for the appeal. The bit I always want to ask is, well, I know Chuck and these guys saying that they're going to make an appeal. Have they made an appeal?
Yeah, I think they've lodged an appeal.
They've not done appeal.
And I mean, only Delroy Truck believes that that appeal has any merits.
Yeah.
And whenever you see someone, I mean, my general rule is if you have lodged an appeal and there are several, not just three or four or five grounds, but over 8, 9, 10, 11 grounds, this is a lot of nonsense.
Mm,
I mean, it's a scattergun approach to with a hope that one of the bullets will catch and stick
yeah.
to something. I mean, there's no ambiguity in the decision. The court said that your decision, the government's decision to pass that amending legislation was wrong, and therefore you cannot rely on it. Where's the ambiguity? Where's the ambiguity?
Mm. The one other thing which is very concerning, and I think I heard Katie Knight said that it was, why is the government so hell bent on actually keeping this lady, particular lady, at the same time? Isn't the public prosecution department has persons that can actually rise to the ranks and actually take over seamlessly? But why is there seem to be this actual hell bent instead of actually following the rules? There have been instances whereby the government has actually lost, I mean, consecutively when it comes on to the constitutional issues over the years. But why this now? You know, and what they're saying is it's a fundamental question of democratic governance. Government seem hell bent on getting its way, which it did by its parliamentary majority. You know,
Well, put it this way. I can't spec. I'm not. I'd love to be the distinguished fly on the wall to
yeah,
hear the prime minister's thoughts on this, given that he had at one point when the extension was requested, he had declined it.
yeah,
He had declined it, but if you ask me the why, I don't know the reason. I can speculate as to why,
yes,
but I certainly know that there are competent persons within the director of public prosecution office who can take over the job. I mean, they found an assistant DPP from the office,
Acting.
but and
Yeah,
act yeah, they're acting DPP. But remember, you have senior directors, senior deputy directors of public prosecution. It, it would stand to natural and sensible logic that one of
mm,
those persons sh- have always been groomed to take over.
yes.
There, I mean, there are persons there who I know or senior deputy for some time, KCs. So I don't think Miss Llewellyn is indispensable.
Mm,
But I think she probably. I'm hoping she knows that she's not indispensable. Like all of us,
yes.
nobody's indispensable. If God forbid she was to depart from us tomorrow, you'll have to find a DPP.
Yes, they always say that, and there's a saying that you vote out the government, but the government comes in. you know, and the key thing about is somebody had sent me a message the other day. A lawyer in Jamaica said, succession planning and mentoring are part of the responsibility of any leader. And I believe in a situation like this with the DPP, I'm sure she has done fantastic work in the past. I have no sort of fundamental criticism of her, but I believe it's an opportune time. In a way, in light of the Vibes cartel ruling and everything, maybe one should actually grab this opportunity of just moving on seamlessly and just take it and just go and actually ride in the wings. Uh,
Personally, I think after the Vibes Cartel ruling, she should have resigned. She should
yes.
have resigned because
Mm,
that was an embarrassing debacle that no one seemed to have cared about to take some measure of responsibility. We were we were embarrassed
mm,
by the bundling that took place on that case, both from the bench and also from the crown. We were
yes.
embarrassed because
Yes.
when people talk about that decision, importantly, there was no criticism made of the judge's decisions as it relates to the substance of the case.
Yes.
There's no criticism in that regard. But I think she should have resigned at that time, and the mere fact that she held on now and wanting to hold on some more indicates a level of hubris that I cannot understand.
And this lady here, there's been some questions about is it the Public Service Commission or so, the appointing of this lady, Miss Samuels. There's been some question about the merit and the rationale of how she's in
Well,
that position now. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I don't know much about the lady, but I think it was
Yeah.
again poor governance on such a serious constitutional issue not to
Mm,
have had a public services commission in place. There wasn't one in place at the time when the decision came out from the Supreme Court.
mm.
There wasn't a public services commission in place. The government hastily convened one over the weekend. So I won't be surprised if they got it wrong in terms
Right.
of who should sit there.
Right, right, and in just moving away, so it is acceptable in a sense, and the thinking is that time for her to move on either way and just shut this thing down. But in light of the Vibes Cartel ruling, and in light of the Privy Council and the whole constitutional reform, what do you think, or what do you, as this sort of put a sort of as this push back the argument for Jamaica removing the Privy Council as the final court of appeal, where
But
people are looking at it now and saying, "Hey, well, we don't trust the government and everything like that." You know what I mean? Look at this now. The Privy Council, the white man has saved cartel.
and I hear you say that, and that we laugh about it, but that is the current misperception that
Yeah.
obtains. What we must remember, it bears repeating, the committee of the Privy Council did not attack the substance of the decision.
Mm,
All they attacked was the procedure and the infected by the tainted juror.
yes.
That's all they said. But no one said that the law as applied by the judges on the substantive issues in terms of their assessment of the evidence. No one said that they were wrong.
Mm, right, right. So therefore, but at the same time, where does the Privy Council and the Caribbean Court of Justice stands now? And as and we're just going to move straight into the constitutional reform, because we have seen and heard whereby the Minister of Constitutional Affairs, Malahu Fort, have said recently, I think it was last week at some program. I was listening to it actually on Nationwide. She was at University of West Indies, and she said that the government, no, the committee or the CRC or whatever, have now come to a decision, and they're ready to put forth a recommendation for Jamaica to have a non-executive president. Yep.
Yep,
And everything is going to be a phased process, a non-executive president. But I don't think they have spoke into the whole issue of the Privy Council and the CCJ. You know,
you're correct.
yeah, and we have talked about this a few times to say that the Privy Council is a political decision, not something which is enshrined in the Constitution, isn't it?
Yeah, that's correct. It's easy to remove
Yeah.
appeals to the Privy Council than it is to become a republic.
Okay. So tell me, so why do you think why is Jamaica, in a sense, should I say Jamaica or the government, hell bent on keeping the Privy Council? Is it that Lord Reed is actually singing sweet words, coming to the university and everything like that, saying nice things to Jamaica?
Well, I must say the JLP's hell bent and singular focus as it relates to the Privy Council
Mm,
is not something that only came about since Lord Reed gave his lecture.
mm,
They've always had a love with the monarchy in the first place, and so I'm not surprised if they want to keep appeals to the Privy Council. They're not concerned about the things that you and I would be concerned, such as
mm.
the role of a foreign apex court in the development of our jurisprudence, in the development and training of judges who are below them. Yeah, you cannot
Yeah,
have a system, a good judicial system, if the apex court, which should be the judge, the court that has the brilliant minds, the most brilliant legal minds of the
yeah.
day. You can't have an apex court in which those judges play no role in training the next generation of judges.
Mm,
Or in other words, the Caribbean Court of Justice is peopled, are constituted by judges who have demonstrated a willingness to engage with judges in the lower courts in terms of training, and that's that's a fundamental importance, because that's how you get new judges in. That's how you ensure that the quality of what they do and the jobs that they perform, that's how you ensure that
yeah.
there's high quality, by getting the judges, the most senior judges in your jurisdiction, to engage with potential or existing lower court judges.
And it's very important at this time that this same word which I used earlier about training and mentoring and developing new judges at the same time really come on board with Jamaica. The sense though is from Malahu Fort, and from the recommendation that I'm hearing is that everything is like a phased process. So get rid of the king is one thing. It doesn't matter how, and we're just going for the easy one for non-executive president. Uh,
Yeah,
when we break down, and just let's say we break it down for our viewers, uh, a non-executive president vis-a-vis uh, a governor general.
executive.
No, I was going to say the governor general. What's the difference between a governor general, a ceremonial president, and the governor general?
I mean, if you have if you have a non-executive president,
Yeah.
yeah, you're effectively keeping the governor general but giving him a different name.
Yes.
Simple as that. Yeah. We never had to go through all of this wait for that to happen. This is
Yeah.
not going to happen anytime soon.
Mm.
It's not going to happen before the election that are due, I think, September of next year. It's not going to happen
Yeah.
because of the sort of procedures that are set out in the Constitution as to how it is a bill that's presented on such an issue, such a constitutional issue. There's time that needs to pass, in total 6 months between the first time the bill was laid and its final reading in the House of in the lower house.
Yes.
You won't have that. That's not going to happen anytime soon. It won't happen anytime soon. Certainly in the life of this current parliament, it's not going to happen.
And this current parliament, well, 2025, is it constitutionally due for a next election, general election in 2025, isn't it?
Yeah,
By that time, the the whole thing though is when I think about the whole constitutional reform thing and the different road shows and town hall meetings. I was in Jamaica and I went to my former school, life school, Brownstown Community College, and I thought about it for a second. I said, in light of the whole country should be so um, appraised and aflame in a sense with the whole aspect of constitutional changes, constitutional reforms. I spoke to a couple of mates of mine and they said, have you heard anything? I said, nothing, nothing about this. I was thinking to myself that these schools, and I just use those three, should have some programs there where the government working in concerted with civil society, bringing in people in the community to educate them about this world constitutional reform. Let it be a movement up to the time when you have a referendum.
yeah.
An educational process. What do you think? Yeah.
I mean, I agree with that because there's a significant deficit, not just about the procedure, but also
Mm,
about the Constitution, and that's not a criticism of people. It's a statement of objective fact. There's
mm,
a significant deficit in terms of people's knowledge and understanding of the Constitution. And here I'm not calling for a sort of encyclopedic knowledge of the Constitution, or you're a constitutional law expert. You don't have to be.
mm.
You don't have to be to know what is required. My another concern that I have now that the Minister of Legal and Constitutional Affairs made this announcement, I'm tempted to really ask, how did she record, how did the committee, sorry,
Yeah.
record the views expressed by some, and where can we see a sort of the documents showing how these views were not just read, but how they were considered, how and when they were considered?
Yes. Yes.
Mm.
And
Because
yeah, go on.
the con- the business or the process of consultation can only be of benefit in the context of what we're looking at. If things are recorded, if I say I want a Martian to rule us, it needs to be recorded that I said it, where and when, and what was the
Yes.
response to that.
Mm.
Yeah.
And it is very clear that there need to be some sort of it would be helpful if the nation can be informed as to the program or the way how the method of operation, how they came to that decision to say that we are putting forth now a recommendation for a non-executive president. Is it that that is what is going to be on any ballot, if anything, Matunda? If that goes through, that's going to be on the ballot. I mean to say, if Jamaica remove the king as the head of state because they don't want to pay the bills for or to object from paying the bill for cartel,
Hmm.
you know, um, if is that going to be the final bit? That is what is going to go to the people, isn't it?
Yeah. Whether or not that's as simple as that. Do you want to abolish the monarchy's role in our constitution? That's it.
But then the recommendation would be for non-executive president at the same time, wasn't it? Be would it be?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
They
do
will.
you? Yeah,
It's
go
quite
on.
likely there will be remember majority of those of persons who are on the who are eligible to vote will
Yeah,
be the persons who are participating in the vote in the referendum.
yeah, yeah.
Those are the persons who will be really voting.
And in light of the trend which we are seeing now of the last local government election of, I believe it's 27.8%, the last general election of 37%, um, is there sort of threshold of the amount of persons from the electoral list that can actually sort of set a quorum or so? That mean to say they need to be at least 60% turnout. What if there's only 30% turnout? Are you there, Matunda? Yeah.
Yeah, I am there. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah.
No. The fine point that
Is not a point that the Constitution is concerned about.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily care about the numbers of persons who can vote or who decide not to vote. It says a
Mm.
majority of those who, if we get a majority of the votes
Of the
on the
votes.
occasion, that's it.
Simple as
Mhm.
that.
Yeah.
Right. So what we are trying to say is that there can be 30% of the
Yeah.
electoral list turned
We
out
would-
to vote, and that 30%, which could be about 700,000 Jamaican, if anything, of the near 3 million Jamaican, make that decision to keep the king or to remove the king or whatever. That's what the reality can be.
yeah, but the real problem here is not even what the law says. The real problem, well, is an understand. If you have a deep understanding of the Constitution, as the opposition clearly does,
Yes.
you know that this proposal is going to be dead in the water pretty soon. It's going to be
Mm,
dead in the water
mm.
because of there are certain requirements that have to be met.
Yes, yes, yes. All
Mhm.
right. Well, anyway, so are you going to make some representation to the ministry and ask those questions or so? I'm not hearing in the full scale of things, and based on where I'm sitting, things are coming to me. I'm not hearing any sort of pushback from that recommendation, which is being announced, and that they're waiting for now is just getting the paperwork in order for the committee members to sign off that recommendation and then to table it or so in Parliament. I'm not hearing any sort of pushback from
Well,
that
there
stage of
won't be
life.
any pushback at this stage, but I tell you something.
Mm,
It is foolhardy to go ahead with this because the present opposition has already said that effectively, if abolishing appeals to the Privy Council is not on the ballot, they're they're not interested.
right, right. And as someone here on TikTok says, the minority cannot determine for the majority. Well, I tell you, the reality is that the minority seem to be determining a lot for the majority in Jamaica these last elections. People,
Of
people
course.
need people need to actually go out there to exercise their vote, and to really, make their voices be heard. That's the only thing I can say to fellow Jamaicans out there. And for Jamaicans overseas who cannot vote, they say you still can vote. You can take the plane and go down to Jamaica. Just as they say, it's election tourism. That's the way you can vote. Overseas you can vote, isn't it? That's what the minister said. The minister said at the High Commission, he said, Sylbourne, people can go and vote. We still have overseas voting. I was watching the last election and I was looking for a particular person, and they sent me a picture with their finger with the purple on it to vote.
I
Well,
mean that
listen,
that
yeah,
that
go on.
pattern usually suits the opposition in any
Yeah,
election.
yeah. But listen, let's move on. We're on the last bit there. The Integrity Commission. There was a very two interesting statements that came out recently, and I can try to paraphrase it. Delwar Chuck, the Minister of Justice, alluded that the six persons who are being investigated. We've been talking about these six in the illicit enrichment, which is corruption allegations. He said the Integrity Commission need to actually something like say who they are.
Yeah.
Stop playing these games. And then another member of the government, Ed Bartlett, tourism minister, alluded that there need to be a rethink of how this integrity commission is going on, because you can't let the information go out to the public in a sense before it reaches the oversight committee, you know, regarding the
Mhm.
whole integrity commission bit here. What's your take on those bits? I don't know if you're familiar with those two sort of statements or those viewpoints.
Well, I'm not sure I understood what you just said.
Which one? The last one or the first one?
The first one.
The first one was that Delroy Chuck alluded that the integrity commission need to name the 6 persons.
You know, when you hear a lawyer who has always kept quiet about his client's innocence or guilt, when you see that
Mm,
lawyer start talking on an unsolicited way, it means that he or she has information that they have not disclosed to the public as yet.
mm,
Information relating to uh, the illicit six. What I'm hearing from I have my ears on the ground on this particular issue is that it seems as if there's a member of that group who, well, not necessarily of that group, but there's a person who has not had his uh, notes signed off by.
the
How do I
IC.
say it? Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to say this in a very politically
Mm,
sound way or legally sound way. In other words, there's one person, head of the government, who seemingly, based on my contacts, who seemingly is presently or has engaged a lawyer to engage with the to engage with the integrity commission on the issue of the non uh, declaration. Now it
yeah.
might be that the Jamaican Labour Party has wind of this and is probably confident that amongst that 6 would not be the person who is now, I'm told, using an attorney to fight these issues. If that is the
Mm,
case, then I can't see why they would not allow the child. If that is the case, sorry, if that is the case, I I
yeah.
I I, I can't see why it is that the governing party would not just come out and say who they are. They don't need to wait on the Integrity Commission. They can say who they
Yeah.
are. They know who they are.
If I can put some sort of clarity to the point, and I see there, senior cabinet minister yesterday, let's clarify, sent a message to the integrity commission, which is Delroy Chuck, urging the anti-corruption body to deliver a report on the 6 parliamentarians who were said to be under investigation for illicit enrichment. Justice
Yeah.
Minister Delroy Chuck told his fellow lawmakers who sit on the integrity commission oversight committee on Thursday that it was about time that the IC divulged to Parliament whether or not one or all of the 6 have been cleared up.
Yeah,
You know,
because as I said to you, because the Delroy Chuck clearly knows that amongst that 6 is one person who seemingly has engaged a lawyer um, to help them to be to get right with the Integrity Commission. So
mm,
it appeared to me that that process has not completed. That's why they're willing to run their mouths on this.
yeah,
So that's
and
what
and 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 just to
my
update,
sources tell me.
yeah, yeah, and just to update what Edmund Bartlett is saying, it appears that some members of the Integrity Commission are unhappy that investigation reports from the Integrity Commission are tabled and made available to the wider public before the oversight committee get a chance to review the documents and submit a report to Parliament. At a meeting at the oversight committee on Thursday, chairman of the ICOC, Edmund Barder, said, "It is unfortunate that the way it is structured, the reports are at large long before we get a chance to review them." What do you say about that? I mean, don't you think that the public, the people who actually elect these persons, listen, when MPs also went to the public and they said, knock on the doors and say, hey, I'm running for this place, I'm running for that place, I'm your man, publicly, you vote for you. And now something like this is happening and it's like some big secret. I think the public should know first. The employers should know first. The people.
I mean, the public should know, but I'm sympathetic to a situation where,
Yeah,
and I don't think that's the situation Chuck was referring to. I'm
yeah,
sympathetic to this situation where you've made an allegation against me, and you have not given me an opportunity to respond to them. You
yeah,
move to a decision. I'm
yeah.
sympathetic with that. It
Mm,
doesn't take a rocket scientist to realize that would be an unfair and procedure.
yes.
The other situation that he's talking about is not the same thing. I just don't buy anything that Delroy Chuck says these days, because
Mm.
he's starting to look rather desperate in the thing that he's doing and saying.
Is he the gentleman that said if the speaker is wrong, she's always right?
I don't know, because when that guy stands up to talk, I really don't listen to him.
Somebody said it is representative democracy that people should know what is going on, not politicians. Do you think
Yes,
that?
but
Yeah, go on. Yeah,
yeah, but the problem with this is that let's be very practical now. An
yeah,
allegation comes in, the IC is investigating it, and before it gives me an opportunity to respond to a concern that it might have, knowing full well that my response will help the quality of the final report, then it's
mm,
foolhardy for anyone to say that they should somehow
yeah,
disclose to the public the everything in the procedure. I don't believe in that. I think people must be given an opportunity
yeah,
to respond to whatever concerns have been raised by the Integrity Commission. And if they don't respond, or if they respond and the Integrity Commission is not satisfied with the response, then they can move on to do what the law allows them to do.
You see, Matunda, there are about 5 persons or so, which was made by the Integrity Commission of recent days, and one of them was Charlton McFarlane. He was the RGD, recent Register General Department, and I think I don't know how many years, I think 2020, 21, 22, 23, or whatever, that the declaration wasn't done, you know, and there are other persons as well. For some, recommendation has been made to the director of prosecution of for corruption or whatever like that, and some of them has been recommendation for them to update the IC with their investigations or so. I believe in a sense that the IC maybe or it should be in due diligence. I believe that they should, and I think maybe it's happening. We maybe need to check that. They are maybe having these discussions with these persons, and
Well, yeah, because I mean, I see that
sure. Mm,
your name doesn't just appear on a list like that.
yeah,
There's been a
yeah,
lot of preparatory work. Remember, as I said to you, the IC certainly has the power. It has the power. If during investigation it wants to ask questions, ask questions.
yes,
Simple as that.
yes. Well, definitely. Well, listen, Matunde, listen. Thanks for this quick rush. We just put on this quick discussion. I don't know if there's anything last you want to say, but it's a nice because Sunday evening where we just chill and have this discussion.
Well, I
Oh,
mean, I suppose I say that I think one of the things we must say is that what Miss Paula Llewellyn will be remembered for, and
mm,
ought to be remembered for, is her accessibility as a public servant to the media,
yes,
and the fact that through her service, people have grown in their knowledge of the office of the Director of Public Prosecution, and
yeah,
I think that's worth saying.
yes,
And in the same breath, with the same voice that I said, that I want to say that she must not tarnish her reputation.
yes.
She ought not to do that.
So now is the time for her to just, as the song says, step aside now. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah. So step
yeah. I
aside.
mean,
Yeah, yeah,
she needs to step aside because she's tarnishing her reputation. I have issues with her tenure in the sense of the numbers of no successful no case submissions that the defendants have made.
Mm.
There, there's just too many of them, and
Mm.
that tells me that the case preparation was poor.
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes, yes. Somebody just asked a while ago, any thoughts on Buju Banton allowed to come back to the USA?
I'm not an American
I'm not an
citizen,
American. Yeah, I don't
and
know.
neither am I an American qualified immigration lawyer. That's not
Yes,
my business. That's
yes.
not my business.
Let's pick up to Buju Banton and the fact that he has I mean, just going through United States recent days, coming from Jamaica, there's such a rigorous immigration stuff. They must know what they're doing. And big up to Buju Banton and all success to him as well with DJ Khaled. Well, Matinda, listen, have a good one, yeah, and good
Not a
night.
problem.
Thank you for that. And next time we're gonna have to go into the park again and do that walk and do some exercise at the same time.
I'll
As
hold you to that.
you hold me to that, well, definitely will. I'll comply. All
All right, cool.
right, peace out, Matunda. God bless you.
Peace.
Cheers. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on tonight. And we just had a quick discussion that we just wanted to keep the discussion flowing regarding the DPP, Integrity Commission, and constitutional reform, and hope that it actually open up and whet the appetite in educating, informing, not entertaining. I wouldn't like to say entertaining, educating and informing as from the diaspora perspective, from Jamaicans overseas perspective, as to what is happening in Jamaica and to sort of be uplifting as well. Okay. And big up to Paula Llewellyn, big up to all the ministers, Chuck, big up to Edmund Bartlett, and big up to the people of Jamaica as well. It's very important for people of Jamaica to really educate yourself on the Constitution, because there's a recommendation for the Constitution to be reformed, and therefore it's going to go to the Parliament. And what is on the table is for a non-executive president vis-a-vis an executive president, a non-executive president, which is simply such just like the governor general in a sense, yeah, a non-executive government. And therefore it's very important as well, very important that persons get onto the electoral register in Jamaica. You could have a situation whereby 20%, 30% turnout, and yet that 20 or that 30% turnout can determine the outcome of a referendum as to whether Jamaica retain the king or not retain the king as a head of state. We just seen recent days whereby it is said that the king has ordered for Jamaica to pay the legal fees for the case with Vibes Cartel, So there we go. Yes, Veronica Tate, amen to that. Big up to Buju Banton, let him enjoy his life, It's not where you're coming from, it's where you're going. Peace out. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you so much for joining. Those on Facebook, those on YouTube, those on TikTok as well. See you Thursday night, and have a good bank holiday, persons in the UK as well, for tomorrow. Okay, and God bless you. Peace out. Thank you. Bye bye.